Hey, what's up, my fellow idiots? Welcome back to another episode of Idiot Proof Cooking. We're making some soup today, and it's one of my favorites, French onion soup. It's actually pretty easy to make. The hardest part is the patience it requires to caramelize the onions. It's going to take about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, but other than that, it's really easy. Caramelizing the onions is the hardest part. So you know what? Let's not beat around the bush. Let's get into making this because it's one of my favorite soups to make. Okay, so let's make some French onion soup. I absolutely love how easy it is to make. It just, it takes a bit of patience because it takes a bit to make, but it is super easy. Now, to start off with, we're going to need some onions. So I've got 5 large white onions here, and we're just going to start off by cutting off both the root and stem end of the onion. Now, by cutting off the root end, some people will say that the onion will release more of its vapors into the air, which will therefore make you cry more. And you know what, be that as it may, I still always cut the root end off of my onions and suffer the consequences of my actions. So anyways, once you've taken the skin off the onion, you're just going to start dicing them up. So that's what I'm doing here. Just slice them into nice long strips of onion, and then once you've finished your first one, get yourself a large bowl to contain them all in. Scoop them all up in here. There we go. Don't spill any. And then, simple enough, we're just going to repeat the process with all 4 other onions until we have a big ass bowl of onions like that. There we go. That is a sizable amount of onions. So let's go into the kitchen and start caramelizing these. So what we're going to do is get our large Dutch oven out, throw it on a burner on a medium heat, and then throw in 3 to 4 tablespoons of salted butter and let the butter melt for like the next 4 to 5 minutes while the Dutch oven heats up. Once the butter is sufficiently melted, it's time to go get our big bowl of onions and pour them into the Dutch oven because we're going to caramelize these and it's going to take a bit of time. Seriously, set aside at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half to caramelize these. Now what you're going to want to do is stir all of the onions every once in a while, maybe every 5 to 6 minutes. You don't want to over stir them in the beginning because then if you do, they won't have enough time to really, cook in the pan, and if you over stir them, they won't caramelize as well. But if you don't stir them enough, then they will burn on the bottom of the pot. So it's really about finding that sweet spot. I think every 5 to 6 minutes you give them a good stir around and that should do it. At about half an hour in, this is what my onions look like. They're starting to caramelize. They're starting to get nice and like gooey, but they're not the golden brown. After about an hour's time, this is what they look like, and they are starting to look really good and just fill the room with amazing rich sweet smells. Now they are almost done, but I'm just going to let them cook for like another 10 minutes until they look this amazing golden brown. Look at how beautiful those onions look. Now it should be noted that as they caramelize, you should stir them more often because they're going to start sticking to the bottom of your pot and developing a fond on the bottom of the pot. But anyways, once the onions have cooked, it's time to add in some garlic. I added in 3 cloves of freshly crushed garlic, scraped down the mincers so that you get all of that spare garlic off. Mix the garlic in with your onions, let them cook for about a minute, and then it's time to deglaze our pot. I'm using a 1/4 cup of Pinot Grigio. Really, any dry white wine will be fine. So pour the white wine in and then scrape with your wooden spatula along the bottom of your Dutch oven, lifting the fond off the pot. Then I'm just going to let this all stew for like 10 minutes on a medium heat to cook off the wine. From there, I'm going to add in about 2.5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour just to thicken this up a little bit. Mix it all in and let it cook with the onions for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And then it's time to add in our beef stock. So I'm going to add in 8 cups of beef stock. I'm just using the store-bought stuff. Obviously, use homemade beef stock if you have it. It's way better than the store-bought stuff. But if you can only get store-bought stuff, then that is completely fine. Once you add in the beef stock, add in about 2 tablespoons of soy sauce and then a tablespoon of dried thyme, and then add in 3 to 4 bay leaves, throw them in. A good pinch of kosher salt is next in, and then last but not least, a few twists of freshly ground black pepper, and that's pretty much the spices. So you mix that all together, and then we're going to let this simmer for like the next 15 to 20 minutes. It allows the soup to heat up because usually you would put the beef stock in at room temperature, and it just allows all of the flavors some time to really integrate themselves with each other. It really just deepens the flavor. Now while the soup is simmering, let's deal with the croutons for the soup. Now I've got myself here a fairly decently sized baguette, and I'm just going to start cutting some pieces off of it. I let it stay out for a day so it got a little stale, so it's a little bit more crispy. That's kind of what you're looking for your croutons. But after you've cut yourself up some, get yourself out a baking sheet like I have here. Throw all of your baguette pieces onto said baking sheet, because we're going to bake these a little bit just to make them into croutons. So first I'm going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil over each one of them here, and then I'm going to sprinkle some kosher salt on all of them. So, just a good generous sprinkling on each. Next up is some freshly ground black pepper on all of them, and then last but not least, this is optional but I think it'll make it taste better, sprinkle a little bit of garlic powder on all of your pieces of baguette. From there, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're going to bake these just for like 7 to 10 minutes until they come out nice and crispy, like that. Now, as you can see, we've got a little bit of golden brownage on the one side, but if you flip them over, they're nice and golden brown on the back side. Look at those. I think I'm going to have to taste test one of these, and you know what? That one's piping hot. Don't burn your hand, Will. Come on. But yeah, that taste is fantastic. These are going to be great in the French onion soup. So let's set these aside for a moment and bring out the soup. It has come to a simmer. It's nice and warm, and all of the flavors have integrated with each other over like the past 20-ish minutes or so. So let's get ready to serve ourselves some soup. I've got myself my French onion soup bowl here. I found a whole set of them at a thrift store for like $5 for 4 of them. Couldn't have asked for a better deal than that. These things are awesome, and they're designed to serve French onion soup in. So ladle yourself out some, and then it's time to add in the cheese. Now, typically you would use Gruyere for French onion soup, but my supermarket didn't have any, so I used Emmental, which is weird. They didn't have Gruyere, but they had Emmental cheese. But anyways, you're going to add in a good helping of cheese, then you're going to throw your croutons on top of said cheese, and then we're going to add more cheese on top. This is French onion soup after all. Not the healthiest soup, but damn if it's not delicious. Get yourself out a smaller baking sheet, because we're going to throw this under the broiler just for like 3 to 4 minutes to melt the cheese and get it nice and golden brown. Now, here's a funny story. I didn't realize that I had left my camera running when I was waiting around for my French onion soup to broil, but Rose picked up on it right away, and I didn't discover this footage until I started editing the video. And I obviously had to keep it in. Look at this little goofball. It's quite funny to see. She dug those earmuffs out of one of our drawers. We bought those for her so that she could come hunting with me in the fall, and the sound of the shotgun wouldn't scare her. But she found them in one of her drawers and was playing with them all day. What a funny kid. But anyways, there's some bonus Rose footage, and now the French onion soup has broiled and it's done. Look at how gorgeous that is. So you know what? Let's go in and taste test this. Now, it is piping hot, so maybe let it cool down a little bit. I just started digging in right away, and I burnt the living hell out of the roof of my mouth, but it was kind of worth it because of how delicious it was. So get in there, get your croutons, just devour them. Man, was this ever good. Let me tell you, just give it a quick blow first. Yeah, it is piping hot, but man, is French onion soup ever good. It's a bit of a time commitment. Like, it takes an hour at least to caramelize those onions, but it's worth it because it is such a good soup. Man, is it ever good. And if you've never made it before, definitely try making it at home. I guarantee you'll love it. But let's call it there, eh? It's been a pretty good episode. We made some pretty good French onion soup, so I really hope you like what you saw here today. If you did, why don't you drop me a comment, like the video, or even subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching Idiot Proof Cooking, and we'll see you again next time.